When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Mike Williams' last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to him. Mike Williams was a young businessman on the rise in Tallahassee, Florida.
He was really coming into his own. There was almost nothing that he couldn't do.
Early one morning, he ventures out to Lake Seminole to go duck hunting and never returns.
Such a tragedy that somebody like this has just vanished. Where is Mike?
Alarming stories start to surface.
Their evidence investigator told me your son fell out of his boat and bumped his head and drowned, and alligators ate him.
But as new evidence emerges, so do suspicions of foul play.
There are people who know what happened to Mike, or at least know a lot more about what happened that have never come forward.
If you ever liked a mystery, you pick up this case and you read it. After second page, you're hooked.
Before dawn on December 16th, 2000, when Jerry Michael Williams, known to everyone as Mike, gears up for an early morning duck hunting trip, downs the last of his morning coffee, and heads out the door of his Tallahassee home.
He was always happiest outdoors. Michael was a hunter from the time he was 6 years old. He would be out with his little bow and arrow shooting at targets.
Mike's destination is Lake Seminole, Florida, a favorite spot where he has fished and hunted for 16 years. It's about 60 miles and a time zone away from Tallahassee. On his way, Mike stops off at work to pick up his shotgun. Though he is only 31, Mike Williams is already a successful commercial real estate appraiser in Tallahassee, and business is booming. His employer, Clay Ketchum, thinks highly of him.
He was really at a point in his career where he was really coming into his own. One thing Mike Williams loved was work. He really enjoyed it, really genuinely did, and he was a great worker for us. He had grown to where he was my primary real estate appraiser. There was almost nothing that he couldn't do.
Mike and his wife Denise are the parents of an 18-month-old girl. Everyone who knows Mike admires his devotion to Ansley, who is the apple of his eye.
He was thrilled to have the baby. That Ansley was the love of his life. In spite of his workload, Mike was always there for Ansley. Whatever Ansley needed, Mike was there. If he had to go home and cook supper for Ansley and then come back to work, he would do it.
Mike took on a lion's share of the responsibility in caring for his child.
He typically worked 12, 14, 16-hour days, got 3, 4, 5 hours sleep where he could, take the baby to the office with him. Working and taking care of the baby was his life from that day when they had her.
On this day, Mike leaves his wife and little girl at home for a solo hunting trip. Dawn has broken by the time Mike pulls up to a dirt landing on the lake. It is chilly in the early morning silence. There is no one else around on the shore or on the water as he launches his motorboat, stows his rifle, and starts the engine.
Mike really enjoyed hunting alone. According to his mother, this was a way of obtaining solitude.
The craft moves across the water and weaves around the many tree stumps that clutter this part of the lake, which was formed by a dam in the 1950s. But Mike knows its contours like the back of his hand. Perhaps he has some luck this morning and brings down his prey. Perhaps not. No one will ever know. December 16th, 2000 is the day Mike Williams disappears. When Mike doesn't return home by noon, his wife Denise is fretful. It is their 6th wedding anniversary, and they have plans to go on an overnight trip to celebrate.
Sometime around noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Denise became very concerned that Mike had not arrived home. She called her father, Warren Merrill, and to let him know that Mike was not home yet. Mike had favorite places he would go when he would hunt and fish, so Warren basically knew where to go.
Denise's father, Warren Merrill, and a friend of Mike's drive out to Lake Seminole to look for him. They locate his truck and boat trailer at the remote landing in Jackson County.
No boat, no Mike, but there it was. He realized something was wrong. At that point, he contacted the Florida Wildlife Commission.
In Florida, the Florida Wildlife Commission, or FWC, is responsible for trying to find missing hunters. The first officer on the scene arrives about 4 p.m.
I started to call in other officers to come help us search.
Mike's mother, Cheryl, is out for a walk when the news comes to her eldest son, Nick, that Mike is missing.
When I got back home, Nick was crying. And he said, "Mama, they can't find Mike." I said, "What do you mean they can't find Mike?" "Mama, he didn't come home at noon, and Warren went over there, and they can't find Mike."
On Lake Seminole, a full-scale search continues on and off into the night, interrupted by a severe storm, which brings with it freezing temperatures. Early in the morning of December 17th, Mike's best friend Brian Winchester and his father find Mike's boat along the lake's western shore, just 75 yards from the landing. When it is light, FWC agent Dave Arnett goes out with Brian to look at the boat and do an inventory of the contents.
I found 2 life jackets laying under a bag of decoys in the front of the boat, and a shotgun still in a zippered case along the edge of the driver's seat.
The boat has a Go Devil type motor, useful in shallow, weedy lakes. He checks out the gas tank.
I took the top off of the gas tank, and when I did, I immediately saw that it was absolutely full of gas, that it had not ran very long. So my feeling was that he had fell out of the boat near the landing.
Responders search the area. The water is only 3 to 5 feet deep here and is choked with vegetation, but there is no sign of Mike.
If Michael had fallen out there, you would have found his body.
The location of the boat is also surprising, given the heavy western winds of the storm the night before. The boat should have been blown to the eastern shore, not washed up on the west bank. After the first day passes with no sign of Mike, it is assumed that Williams is the victim of a tragic accident.
I felt very sad. We really felt like that Mike had drowned and that he would be found probably within a week or so.
Over the coming weeks, officers spend 735 man-hours over an unprecedented 56 days scouring a 10-acre patch of Lake Seminole for Mike Williams.
Many law enforcement agencies were involved in this initial search, but the initial search was for a missing person. It was for somebody who may have had an accident on the lake. This particular lake, it's not that infrequent to have a drowning victim.
We expected, to recover the body quite soon. We just had problems understanding why we weren't able to locate the subject.
As time goes on, the search party questions why Mike's body doesn't float to the surface.
Historically speaking, most people that do go missing in Lake Seminole eventually will surface and a body will be found. I believe that there is some data that says that Jerry Michael Williams was the only body that was never found out of Lake Seminole.
There were theories floating around that maybe he wasn't here, but we continued with our search as if he was here because we had no other indication that he would not be here. His vessel was here. He was a duck hunter on this lake.
There was just no trace of Mike. It was like he disappeared into thin air.
Soon, a troubling theory develops. People start saying that Mike must have pitched overboard, and the chest-high waders he wore for duck hunting had sucked him 8 feet to the bottom. The alligators that infest the lake, some up to 10 feet long, must have gotten to him before the searchers could.
Their evidence investigator said, "Miss Williams, I'm sorry to have to tell you, but your son fell out of his boat and bumped his head and drowned, and alligators ate him."
It is not an explanation Mike's mother can accept. Coming up, suspicions grow that the disappearance of Mike Williams is no accident.
So what are my other alternatives if he didn't get eaten by alligators? Did he walk off? Did somebody hurt him?
The intensive hunt at Lake Seminole, Florida for missing Tallahassee businessman Mike Williams continues through the Christmas holidays of 2000 into 2001.
When they were doing the search, they'd taken these big PVC poles and they were standing in boats and they were literally going down like every 6 inches, poking, trying to find a body, something.
By February, 2 months after he disappeared, there is still no sign of Mike Williams. But the theory that he may have been eaten by alligators gains traction.
This was no doubt the most exhaustive search in this lake. Since the lake has been in existence since 1957. So there had been theories that started as far as what may have happened to Mike, why did he disappear? One of the earliest thoughts was that Mike may have been attacked and eaten by alligators.
There was this idea that was put forward that people believed. Mike Williams, the man eaten by alligators.
Mike's boss, Clay Ketchum, here's the theory that Mike might have been eaten by alligators from Mike's best friend, Brian Winchester.
And he said, I hate to even mention this to you, but there has been the thought process that an alligator has got him. And I just said, oh my gosh, and just felt sort of an uneasy, sick feeling in my stomach. That's the first time I had heard of the alligator eating theory.
Cheryl Williams, Mike's mother, refuses to believe such a terrible thing could have happened to her son. And Mike had always told her that alligators don't feed when it's cold.
I said, but that's not possible. Alligators don't eat in cold water. So then I called Florida State University and talked to their top alligator expert. And he said, no, your son could not have been eaten by alligators. Physiologically impossible. While it's a good theory, it won't hold up in your son's disappearance.
The evening Mike disappeared, a cold front moved through the area, and the weather for the next couple of weeks was freezing.
It got down to 19 degrees. It was very, very cold. They had like big 55-gallon drums that they would keep alit to warm the searchers. There's certainly no alligators moving in that kind of weather.
I've lived in Jackson County most of my adult life. In my experiences as a child playing in Lake Seminole, seeing alligators, I don't have any personal knowledge of anyone ever being attacked or eaten by an alligator in Jackson County.
Throughout the long vigil, friends and relatives all pitch in to help.
At the lake were Mike's closest buddies, I would guess. Mike's father-in-law, Mr. Merrill, was there. Brian Winchester was there, and his father, and I would kind of surmise that Mr. Winchester and his son Brian were sort of the lead dogs in this. Mike's very best friend was Brian Winchester. They often traveled together to hunt ducks in Louisiana, Texas. So they were just very, very close.
Mike's brother Nick is also a constant presence at the scene, poking the lake bottom, looking for any sign of Mike. As kids, they had been close, but in recent years have grown apart. Nick finds himself filled with regrets. At first, he believes Mike is drowned, but he becomes increasingly suspicious about what has happened to his little brother.
We'd pull up sticks and fishing reels, all kinds of debris, pieces of boats, just anything you can think of that might have fallen in a lake, but never found any trace of Mike or any of Mike's belongings.
Then, 10 days after Mike's disappearance, an FWC officer sees a hat floating in some weeds at the lake's edge.
Officer Perry and myself were searching, doing a grid pattern across the stumpy area, and we noticed a camouflage hat floating off to the east weed line of the search area. We collected the hat, which was a camouflage duck hunter's hat.
To the FWC officers, something seems odd about the find. The hat hadn't been there when they previously searched the area.
9 days prior to that, the hat was not there. There was nothing that we had found in an extensive search across the area. And on the 10th morning of the search, we found the hat floating there. The hat was like new. It had no slimy residue on it that things in Lake Seminole normally has. It appeared to have been recently bought or a new hat.
And Brian, Mike's friend, says, well, it looks like a hat that Michael had. But everybody at the search site knew that the hat had not been there for 2 weeks.
They tested it for DNA. It came back that Mike's head was not in this hat. They could not find any traces of DNA in there.
Mike's family can't help but wonder if the hat was placed there intentionally. They just don't know who would have done so or why. In February, Mike's wife Denise decides to hold a memorial service for her husband.
Denise's father came to me and Nick, and he said, Denise needs to get on with her life. We need to have a memorial service. And I said, but we don't know that Mike's dead. He's in the lake. I told you he's in the lake. And Nick said, but we don't know that he's dead. But if she wants to have it, okay.
The memorial takes place on February 11th, the day after the search officially ends.
I thought Denise was brokenhearted. Anytime I was around her, she wasn't talking very much. She seemed really sad. She wasn't having very much to do with the baby. She was sleeping a lot.
For the authorities, the Mike Williams case is closed. FWC's accident report ends simply with the notation that the duck hunter remains missing. According to Cheryl, about a week after the memorial, Mike's friend Brian Winchester meets with an attorney to ask about the requirements to have someone declared dead without a body or death certificate. And while Denise Williams seems to want to put the tragedy behind her, her mother-in-law is not able to let the matter rest without proof her son is dead.
So what are my other alternatives if he didn't drown in the lake and he didn't get eaten by alligators? Did he walk off? That was not something I wanted to think either, because he loved that child so much, and he loved Denise.
She tries to convince the authorities to investigate her son's disappearance as a criminal case. But she is unsuccessful. Still, she finds it hard to believe that Mike is dead and holds on to the hope he is alive somewhere. But if her beloved son is dead, Cheryl is certain that Mike didn't meet with an accidental death hunting on Lake Seminole. She believes his disappearance is due to foul play.
I couldn't think of anybody that would want to hurt my son. So what I did was I started listening. And I started writing down everything that everybody said. And all these different things just didn't add up.
Coming up, Mike's mother finally gets a criminal investigation going. But is it too little, too late?
Absent Mike's body, absent any trace of him, without any kind of physical evidence at all, it is incredibly difficult to crack this case.
Mike Williams' disappearance leaves a hole in his mother Cheryl's heart. Her husband Jerry has recently died after a short illness. Now she has also lost her youngest son. Mike had risen to affluence, making $250,000 a year as a real estate appraiser, but he had begun his life in modest circumstances. His father was a Greyhound bus driver, and his mother has always made ends meet by taking care of other people's children along with her own. Mike and his brother Nick grew up in a double-wide trailer surrounded by woods in the countryside. A deeply religious woman, Cheryl scrimped and saved to send her sons to a private Christian school in Tallahassee.
That's where he met a lot of people that I would say are from a higher socioeconomic background, lawyers and professional engineers, those types of things. I think that that was part of why Mike was driven so much to earn money, but also to be respected and earn the respect of his peers.
Mike was popular and on the football team. In the 9th grade, he met Denise Merrill, a new student. They fell in love.
She told me, she said, Miss Williams, I saw Mike on the first day, and I knew he was it. I loved her. I thought she was wonderful for Mike. Her family was one of the best families in Tallahassee, and she was beautiful. I was proud of her.
At school, Mike also met Denise's childhood friend, Brian Winchester, and all three often hung around together. They were all friends until the day Mike Williams disappeared. Mike was president of the senior class, and Denise was voted best dressed. After they graduated from college, Mike and Denise got married. But after the wedding, Mike's mother and brother Nick say, they didn't see Denise very much.
When he got married, he didn't talk too much about the marriage, about what was going on in his life. Mom, Dad, and me didn't get invited over too much. They pretty much kept to themselves.
When Mike brought his daughter to visit, he usually came alone.
I always had the feeling that Denise just really didn't like any of us that much, kind of looked down on us. Denise just went out of her way not to visit that much, even when Mike was there.
Still, Mike's family never thought there was anything wrong in the marriage. The official search for Mike Williams ends in February 2001. Then in June, 6 months after he disappeared, a new piece of evidence floats to the surface of Lake Seminole and raises questions. A fisherman on the lake finds a pair of waders drifting in a spot he has fished many times since Mike disappeared. He calls the Fish and Game Service to come and examine them.
The waders were not slimy. After 6 months, they should have been slimy. They were clean waders. They were like new.
They were completely pristine. There were no alligator teeth marks. Now, they had always told family and friends that when we find the waders, we will find Mike. Mike will be in them. Well, when that happened, people who heard about that, the mystery really intensified.
The waders are shown to Mike's friend, Brian Winchester. He can't make a positive identification, but says they look like waders Mike used.
Forensic checks were done on the waders, and there was no way to actually link these waders to Mike.
They determined that there was no genetic material inside the waders, and they actually gave the waders to the father-in-law. After they found the waders, the family or friend of the victim contacted a pretty renowned local diver.
The diver goes into the water where the waders were found, and minutes later he surfaces with a jacket and a flashlight. Both appear to be in pristine condition, not slimy as they should be if they had been sitting on the bottom of the lake for 6 months. In the pocket is a hunting license with Mike Williams' name on it.
You could read his driver's license number, his address, and you could even still see his signature. I mean, just as plain as if he'd read it yesterday. And the light was a little cheap light, probably not waterproof, and probably not waterproof for 6 months. But they recovered it, clicked it on, and it was still operational.
Despite the suspicious condition of these new pieces of evidence, there is still no criminal investigation into Mike's disappearance, and no public scrutiny. Not long after the items are found, Cheryl Williams discovers that her daughter-in-law, Denise, has applied to a probate court in Florida to have Mike declared legally dead.
Florida law indicates that somebody must be missing for a period of 7 years before they are declared dead. However, that can be changed if there are circumstances which come up which may prove that somebody may have perished of an accident, homicide, or whatever. Then that can be changed and brought up before the court.
Though Mike Williams has been missing for just 6 months, little more than a week after the waders, jacket, and license are found in Lake Seminole, his widow submits their discovery as evidence to the circuit court in Tallahassee. The judge grants a presumptive certificate of death. Shortly afterwards, Denise Williams collects the proceeds of Mike's life insurance, at least $1.5 million.
You were not told one thing about anything.
These items were used and mentioned in the probate hearing to get Mike declared dead, prominently saying, here these waders were found, here this jacket was found. And a hearing that Cheryl Williams was never made aware of, that happened very quietly and very quickly.
Cheryl Williams is devastated by the news that Mike is declared dead. She is more convinced than ever that there is something shady going on. And she has new suspicions about why Denise was so eager to have a memorial service so soon after Mike disappeared.
One thing we did learn was that in order to declare somebody dead, you have to hold a public service saying that they're dead.
Her efforts to initiate an investigation don't sit well with Denise Williams. According to Cheryl and Nick Williams, Denise threatens her mother-in-law that if she persists, she will be sorry.
She and her daddy told us, if you do anything to get a criminal investigation, you're going to lose Ansley. I mean, it wasn't just a veiled threat. It was a statement. You'll lose Ansley. She said, I've got to go on with my life. I don't want to be bothered with anything else. I don't ever want to hear Mike's name again, and I don't want to know anything that has to do with him.
But the threat of losing contact with her granddaughter only intensifies Cheryl's search for the truth.
People have said, you had a granddaughter, you should have let it go because it can't do anything but hurt her. But I also had a son, and I didn't have anybody looking for him but me.
It takes 3.5 years, but finally in 2004, a family friend helps Cheryl get her suspicions before an investigator at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. An investigation is finally launched into the disappearance of Mike Williams. Several different law enforcement agencies look into the case, and in the end, they all agree.
Is it more than likely Mike did not disappear at the lake, that something happened to Mike maybe before he went to the lake?
The investigators face overwhelming challenges. At no time in the 56-day search for Mike Williams was his disappearance investigated as a possible crime.
Nothing was handled in the way that investigators normally would handle, let's say, a crime scene.
His home was never searched. Neither were his boat and trailer, which were driven off and left at Brian Winchester's father's home for months. The searchers trampled all over the places where his boat and truck were found, obliterating any possible evidence. The items taken from the lake were not preserved.
There's this laxness about it, which I think is born of not really a conspiracy in any way, of just people making assumptions that what they had was a boating accident, never even imagining for a second that they could have an actual crime, that there could be foul play involved. And I think from the outset, that has hindered this investigation, because without some sort of physical evidence, absent Mike's body, absent any trace of him, it is incredibly difficult to crack this case.
Coming up, a reporter shines new light on the case.
Almost every person that I talked to said they thought it was strange from the very beginning, and listed reasons why.
After an official investigation begins into Mike Williams' disappearance, authorities are soon convinced that it is a suspicious missing persons case. Lake Seminole is in Jackson County, Florida, and Derek Wester, an investigator with the Jackson County Sheriff's Department, is pulled into the case in 2004.
If you were ever an investigator, then you know what I'm talking about. Or if you've ever investigated a mystery, you pick up this case and you read it. After second page, you're hooked. You're like, oh, I can solve this, I can solve this.
Wester left law enforcement in 2010, but he worked on the Mike Williams case longer than any other investigator, and he still feels a responsibility to Mike's mother, Cheryl.
You feel that hurt and that loss that she's got. I think that Ms. Williams deserves to know. I told her I'd do whatever I could.
He shares an opinion about the case with other law enforcement.
I think that he was the victim of foul play.
Wester believes the timing of the discovery of the waders and other evidence in Lake Seminole, so close to the hearing to determine Mike dead, is suspiciously convenient.
It was either God sent or man sent, would be my best. Either somebody put it there or God put it there, because it hadn't been there for the last 6 months.
When he begins his investigation in 2004, Wester learns the Florida Division of Insurance had conducted a quiet investigation of its own back in 2001. The agency thought it was curious that Mike's widow, Denise, had filed a claim on one of his life insurance policies just 20 days after he went missing, while the search for him was still going on.
Mike had 3 very large insurance policies, and before the actual search was ended in February of 2001, his spouse, Denise, went ahead and started to explore the possibilities of obtaining some insurance monies. At some point, the Florida Department of Insurance actually got involved and started to check on the timing of the insurance policies.
Mike's boss, Clay Ketchum, knew about one of the insurance policies because Mike had asked his advice about buying it just 6 months before he disappeared.
Should he get $1 million worth of coverage, or should he get a lesser amount? And I said, well, get all the life insurance you can.
Clay also knew that Mike had been having some trouble in his marriage.
Probably 30 days prior to his disappearance, he shared with me some issues that he was having at home. You know, for Mike, he was very vocal about it in terms of he wasn't happy with the way things were.
But Clay didn't tell the first insurance investigator who questioned him about the marital problems, feeling it would violate his friend's confidence. Though he had reason to wonder why Denise was so in need of money, since he was still paying her Mike's residual income.
Denise continued to receive checks, and so I felt like there was enough, you know, cash flow there to and I certainly disclosed to Denise how much money would be coming in, and it was probably a year and a half after Mike's disappearance before the checks finally stopped.
So there didn't seem to be a desperate need for the money.
In 2004, there is a new development. Denise is now openly dating Mike's best friend, Brian Winchester, who has gotten divorced from his wife.
It was probably just a few years after Mike disappeared that Denise came out and told us that she and Brian were dating.
That same year, the FDLE launches a criminal investigation together with Derek Wester from the Jackson County Sheriff's Office.
You have to have motive for a crime, and there's only 2 people that benefited from Mike Williams' death, and that was a pretty substantial amount of money. So, to me, there's always been 2 persons of interest.
During the course of the investigation, Wester interviews Brian Winchester.
And we got a call shortly thereafter that he had retained an attorney and he didn't want to speak with us anymore. And then the same attorney also advised us that the widow, Miss Williams, didn't want to be a part of it. They wanted to put it behind them.
Shortly afterward, in 2005, Brian and Denise marry. They continue to live in the home Mike had bought in an upscale suburb of Tallahassee. Meanwhile, Cheryl continues to do everything she can to call attention to her son's suspicious disappearance. Jennifer Portman, a senior reporter for the Tallahassee Democrat, never even hears about the Mike Williams case until 2006, when she sees an ad in her paper placed by Cheryl. It immediately catches her attention.
That says, "Have you seen my son?" And it was a large ad. I'm like, this is interesting. I proceed to read. It says, "My name is Cheryl Ann Williams. My son has been missing since December 16th, 2000. They said first he was eaten by alligators. Now they think he was the victim of foul play." I mean, it was this very compelling, long thing. And I'm like, alligators, missing guy, investigation. And the second I saw that, I'm like, this is a story that we need to follow up on. It was a compelling mystery.
She pokes her nose into the case, digging up court records, talking to almost everyone who was ever involved in investigating his disappearance. Though there was never much media coverage of the case, she learns that to many in Tallahassee, a small city and gossipy state capital, the case is something of a legend.
Almost every person that I talked to 6 years later said they thought it was strange from the very beginning and listed reasons why.
Her articles bring in new leads, and it is clear from her interviews with law enforcement that the focus on what happened to Mike has shifted. By 2006, investigators doubt Mike was ever at the lake that December day 6 years before. They think the entire scene appears set up to deceive law enforcement and members of his family about what really happened to him.
They're convinced now that he never made it to the lake and that he was murdered, most possibly just in his own house. And then the events were all staged to make it look like a hunting accident. That's leading law enforcement opinions.
And the mystery is, if Mike never left his house to go hunting, how did those items get out there?
Take 2 people. One drives that truck, one drives another truck. He pulls up, unhooks it, pushes it out. It wouldn't be hard at all to stage this.
There are people who know what happened to Mike, or at least know a lot more about what happened that night or that morning, that have never come forward.
Coming up, could new revelations lead to Mike Williams' killers?
They have new evidence that they're going over, and I hope that it's something that they can use to charge and convict somebody.
investigators had a pretty good case. But then, late in 2008, the fraud investigation is closed, citing a lack of sufficient evidence that insurance fraud had occurred.
I thought we was going to be able to make an arrest, but for some reason, nobody ever got arrested. I don't know why the warrant was never applied for or issued.
Over the years, Derek Wester has worked with an ever-changing cast of investigators on the Mike Williams case from a number of agencies. So many, he finds it puzzling.
It's odd. FDLE reassigned the case to, I don't know, 4 or 5 different agents that I know of. And then they get pulled off the case and somebody else gets reassigned.
Mike Devaney is the latest FDLE officer to tackle the Williams case. He says the agency has never dropped the ball on the investigation.
There has not been a year since 2000 where there hasn't been something investigatively going on with this case. We have a tremendous amount of information, and we are re-examining.
I really think that FDLE is on the right track now. They've got new angles, and I honestly believe that they're really working on it now.
Derek Wester stopped actively working on the case in 2008, but he says he keeps an eye and ear on it even now.
They have some new information. They have new evidence that they're going over, and I hope that it's something that they can use to charge and convict somebody.
The FDLE says they have persons of interest, but won't officially identify them. Neither Denise nor Brian Winchester has been named as a suspect or charged with any crime. Nevertheless, some people are curious about Mike's widow and former best friend.
I don't know if they did it or not, and I just don't have any reason to suspect that they did. I just have this incomplete loop in my life where, and all of us do that loved Mike, that we don't know what happened.
It seems that if anyone should be questioning what happened to Mike, you think it would be his wife and his best friend. I mean, the facts are there for them as they are for everyone else, and they won't really comment on this.
In an email, Brian Winchester declined our interview request to him and his wife, Denise. In spite of everything, Cheryl Williams still holds out hope her son is alive.
I've always had 2 choices. Mike's dead or he's alive. Until they can bring me his body or proof of his body, I don't have to believe that he's dead. I can still hold out that hope that he's alive.
She knows she is the only one, but that is her duty as a mom. Until she knows for sure, she is not going to let him go. And I know that as every day passes and every year passes, it's a crushing burden.
And of course, there is another possible explanation for Mike's disappearance. He may have arranged it himself.
The pressure of work, the workaholic nature in him got the best of him, and he just said, I can't stand the pressure anymore.
Some people say that he's this down in Costa Rica or Mexico or somewhere sitting on a beach, drinking drinks with funny little umbrellas.
But those who know him best discount that theory.
My brother was not the kind of man who would just walked up, picked up and left.
Ansley was his pride and joy. That father deeply loved that child. I can't imagine him in a million years leaving that child.
There were investigative steps to try to determine, did Mike do this? And those came up negative. There's no evidence that Mike had a different identity or is living in Rio.
And so that only leaves one other possibility, and that's that somebody hurt him and have done something with him.
Cheryl Williams can't rest until she gets an answer, one way or the other.
I can't even begin to tell you how horrible it is. It's in my head all the time. My youngest child is not here, and I don't know how he died, if he's dead. I don't know where he is, if he's alive. All I've had is people lie to me, tell me, you're crazy, Miss Williams. He got eaten by alligators. Leave him in the bottom of the lake.
As Cheryl Williams cares for children at her home daycare business, she remembers the child she has lost, and that child's child. She hasn't seen her granddaughter Ansley since October of 2004, but she hopes one day to reconnect with Mike's child. Each year on Ansley's birthday, she puts an ad in the paper to tell her she still loves her.
If I had not done what I did for all these years, not one other person in this world would have questioned his disappearance. 80 people have drowned in Lake Seminole. Mike's is the only body that never came up.
Intrepid as ever, Cheryl still pickets in Tallahassee from time to time with a homemade sign to remind people Mike is still missing. She and Nick put up posters, but they are often quickly torn down. Still, many people hold out hope for answers for Cheryl and the community.
I think everyone wants to get Cheryl that closure, even if it is that she finally has to face the fact that Mike is dead. At least that is closure. It is this open-endedness that is just a torment.
It's a haunting experience for my wife and I, and we just don't know. I just know he's missing.
All the facts in this case that I've been able to learn is there are people who know what happened to Mike. If those people would come forward and give some sort of plausible explanation for what happened, that could set this investigation on a whole different track. Absent that, you're just left to wonder what did happen.
The Jamison family disappeared on Thursday, October 8th, 2009. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. The Jamison family's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to them. A 6-year-old girl and her free-spirited parents vanish in the backcountry of Oklahoma.
It was terrifying to know that they might be lost in those woods.
I had the feeling from the very first moment that it was foul play.
We thought they were either, one, lost on that mountain, or two, it was a murder-suicide.
A police investigation reveals bizarre questions, but no answers.
I know she's told the neighbors around here she's a witch.
In this area, you find that much money, automatically you start to think about drugs.
Then she put the gun to his head and said, "You need to go."
This isn't a random crime. This is something that was premeditated.
It was like not knowing. I mean, what happened to my kids?
They didn't deserve this.
On the day before the Jamisons disappear, they load their pickup truck and drive 30 miles to Oklahoma's Panola Mountain.
They were looking for property. They were looking to go buy 40 acres of land in a very rural area.
The Jamisons had actually learned about the land on the internet.
The parcel of land is situated in a remote area near an abandoned oil well.
It is really forested area. There's a lot of cliffs and ravines. That's what they like, though. They liked nature.
Those who know Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison say the couple looked at Panola Mountain as a fresh start, a new beginning for them and their young daughter.
They like to go look at land and imagine what if and fantasize about, building whatever, their dream businesses, homes, whatever.
Nikki Shenold has been Sherilyn Jamison's closest friend for more than 10 years.
She used to say a lot, you have to stand for something. I don't care what you stand for, but you have to stand for something. When she believed in something, she believed in it with her whole heart.
Friends and family say that when Sherilyn met Bobby Jamison in the summer of 2002, she knew he was the man for her.
Sherilyn decided right then and there that she liked him and she was interested. Bobby was a very gentle man. He was a good man. He didn't want to do anybody wrong.
They fell in love and got married in July of 2004. Later that summer, the Jamisons have a baby girl and name her Madison.
Madison was my son's, I guess, best gift in his whole life.
Where are you going, Tissy? Looky, there you are on TV.
She was just, beautiful child, and her and I were best friends.
Madison.
For Bobby and Sherilyn, moving to Panola Mountain is the next step in building a simpler life. They're excited to join the small community living there, people who prize independence and self-sufficiency.
There's very few people that live up there. Even the ones that do have the bare minimum needs.
In order to have electricity, you have to really have a generator. Some people have septic systems, some people don't. It's a pretty rustic way of life.
When it comes to being off the grid, they're as close as you probably could be in this area.
On the morning the Jamisons start to explore the mountain where they hope to make their new home, they become lost in a maze of dirt roads. They run into one of the handful of people living up there and ask for directions.
He's out there working, he sees them come up. They're talking about buying land in that area. They're asking him questions about, okay, how do you build on a place, you know? How do you do the things that you need to do to be able to live in this area?
Bobby and Sherilyn get directions to the plot of land they're considering and decide to return the next day. The following morning, they drive back up the mountain, looking forward to seeing the place where they would live out their dreams.
I think they wanted to get away from everybody and be able to enjoy life on their own, not to have to answer to anybody.
It's pretty desolate, but I think desolate at that point was what they were looking for. They were just kind of looking to start anew and kind of get away from mainstream.
But the Jamisons' outing comes to an unexpected and mysterious end. 8 days later, hunters on four-wheelers find a locked truck parked on a dirt road near the top of Panola Mountain.
They peeked in the window and they saw a dog, and the dog was not doing so well. It had been locked in that truck for multiple days.
There wasn't any food for the dog. I mean, she was a survivor. She was a survivor to live through that.
There is no sign of the Jamisons anywhere on the hilltop. The Latimer County Sheriff's Office is called.
The call just came in that there's an abandoned truck up there. We broke the glass, got the dog out of there. We started to do an inventory on the vehicle to try to find out who they were.
When he began to find things in there, he knew that it was something definitely was wrong. They had cell phones in their truck, and their billfolds were there, her purse was there. You know, it was like they had just disappeared.
Because their coats, phones, and money are all left behind, police believe that Bobby and Sherilyn, along with their 6-year-old daughter, Madison, must be lost nearby in the woods.
After we started looking through everything, we were figuring, okay, they're up here.
It would be quite easy for somebody to go out there and get bit by a snake and to not be able to get back to the truck and just to not be able to find your way around.
Police conduct an immediate search of the area surrounding the truck.
I had 5 or 6 deputies up there. Started calling out their names once we figured out who they were, trying to get some type of reply from them.
Rugged terrain makes the search doubly challenging.
You can get lost in the woods up there very easily unless you know where you're going. Because if you get in the midst of the trees, you can't see, very far ahead.
For law enforcement, time is of the essence.
There was a child missing. It was getting towards, middle, end of October. The nights were getting colder, and they didn't have their jackets with them because those were left in the truck.
We knew that they had been there 8 to 9 days, and you're getting on that timeline there to where, the chances of making it, we're at that point now.
Why hadn't anyone reported that the Jamison family had been missing for 8 days? The few people that saw their truck guessed that it belonged to a work crew.
There's a lot of wells up in that area, oil wells, gas wells. So a lot of people thought it was just people with an oil field that had come in.
Also, the Jamisons were a very private family, and it wasn't unusual for them to hunker down for several days or longer without speaking to friends or family members.
They had a habit of going out of town for extended periods of time and not really letting anybody know.
We could go a year and not talk and pick up the phone and act as if no time had gone by. That's just the relationship that we had. There's a lot of reasons why no one was alarmed.
Bobby and Sherilyn had also just pulled 6-year-old Madison out of school in preparation for homeschooling her.
The school didn't realize that, Madison was in there because she had been taken out.
If it wasn't for the hunters coming down and telling the man that lived close to him about the vehicle, it could have been that much longer.
The sheriff's men on Panola Mountain realized that by now, the Jamisons could be anywhere. They used the family's cell phones to help reconstruct their last known movements.
As we checked the GPS from the phone, we had found out that they didn't spend the majority of the time parked there.
GPS coordinates lead police up a nearby hill, where they find footprints.
The 6-year-old's footprints were there, and that was obvious and easy to identify.
We were able to follow their footprints as well as follow the GPS on the camera up to a rock.
They determined that the Jamisons spend about 15 or 20 minutes up the hill from their truck. And remarkably, they find an eerie memento of the family's time on the hill.
The cell phone had a picture on it of Madison. They'd actually taken the picture on a small bluff that was just north of the location, maybe just a couple hundred yards.
It's the last picture that we have of Madison.
It appears to police that after taking the photo, the Jamisons return to their truck and start to leave. What happened next is shrouded in mystery. Then, while scouring the cab for more clues, a deputy sheriff makes a stunning discovery.
He said, "I've got something to tell you, and I think you need to come up here." And I said, "Okay, what's going on?" And he told me, he said, "Hey, there is a substantial amount of money in this vehicle."
A bank bag hidden beneath the driver's seat contains $32,000 in cash.
I wondered why. Why is all this money in here?
Anytime any large amount of cash is found in a vehicle, it raises a lot of red flags.
So at that moment, I said, okay, get everybody away, tape it off as if it was a crime scene. Don't know, what's going on yet, but tape it off.
We really weren't sure why they disappeared.
Coming up, evidence points to a violent event in the Jamisons' disappearance.
I think that they were probably forced out at gunpoint. I mean, why would you struggle if someone has a gun?
While looking at a plot of land on Oklahoma's Panola Mountain, Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison and their 6-year-old daughter Madison have disappeared. Investigators find the family's truck abandoned in the Oklahoma backcountry.
A pickup sitting down there, with all of their goods and the dog locked inside the car was very suspicious.
Investigators are confounded by their most recent discovery, a hidden bank bag containing $32,000 in cash.
It's very unlikely that they would leave the vehicle there and lock their cell phones and their wallets and leave all of that in the car on their own accord, but we really didn't know.
Investigators are also baffled that the family dog was apparently left to die in the cab of the truck.
Madison, once she had that puppy, never went anywhere without the puppy.
It just doesn't make any sense, because that was Madison's friend, and she would have screamed and hollered if he'd left the dog in the car.
The whole fact that the dog was in the truck, locked up, and they're nowhere to be found, tells me that they got out of the truck in a hurry.
Even the cell phone picture of 6-year-old Madison prompts speculation among some of their friends.
I don't think her parents took that picture. I think that somebody else that she did not know took that picture. She had her arms out like this, and her hand was over it in a weird position. She was looking off. It wasn't a real smile. She looked very uncomfortable to me. Very uncomfortable.
Police theorized that the Jamisons were in their truck heading back down the mountain when they were interrupted.
It seemed to me like they were leaving, and that someone came up that one-way road, and they stopped. Maybe they knew him, maybe not well. They stopped, talked to the person. From there, obviously, I don't know what happened.
But investigators find no signs of a struggle at the scene of the truck.
Signs of struggle for life or death would be violent. That's not going to be some small tussle.
There was no blood found on the vehicle. There was no broken glass.
You're obviously looking for disturbance on the ground. When people fight, there's clothes that's shredded, there's things that fall out of pockets. Whenever it's that violent, something would be left to show that there was something that happened there.
Still, friends and family think the scene suggests that the Jamisons left against their will.
I think that they were probably forced out at gunpoint. I mean, why would you struggle if someone has a gun to you?
Hopeful for a lead, investigators process every item found in the truck.
At this point, there were so many different things that led us in different directions. We weren't sure if they were lost. We weren't sure if they were abducted.
Then, buried in the clutter filling the cab, they stumble upon something they never expected. An 11-page letter written from Sherilyn to her husband, brimming with hostility.
She was lashing out big time in this letter to Bobby.
It was just a hate and discontent. The years of fighting, she felt that he wanted to be a loner and didn't really need a family. Hate.
Investigators learn that in recent months, there were serious stresses in the Jamisons' marriage.
We learned from their family members that they were having problems. We had learned from the letter that they were talking about getting divorced.
They had been looking at selling their house and kind of moving away to get away from that to make things better.
Much of the strain dates back to 2003, when Bobby was involved in a serious auto accident.
Bobby was driving his truck in 2003, and he had a wreck. He was coming around a curve, which is a blind curve in the road, and this lady hit him from one side, and another lady hit him from the other side.
Since the accident, Bobby suffered from chronic pain and was unable to work.
It is very hard for him to get up out of bed even. Medicine wasn't really helping relieve the pain.
It made it hard for him to do things around the home. And I think that the pain every day, the chronic pain, really put a toll on his spirits. And I think he became depressed, and it made things more difficult in the marriage.
The letter forces investigators to consider a violent scenario in the Jamisons' disappearance. Their concerns heighten when family members tell them that a pistol belonging to Sherilyn Jamison cannot be found.
We didn't know about the .22 pistol until that moment, so we said, no, we haven't found a pistol. And they told us, okay, well, usually she carries this pistol in the vehicle.
Investigators search the Jamisons' truck and house thoroughly. When they find no pistol, they begin to fear the worst.
We got a pistol missing. We have a hate letter here. We're starting to point toward maybe murder-suicide. We thought to ourselves that maybe it was her that had killed them.
Coming up, leads in the Jamisons' disappearance go from confusing to downright bizarre.
Bobby had asked him, okay, is there a special bullet that I can buy to kill these spirits?
Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison and their 6-year-old daughter Madison have been missing for nearly 2 days. The possibility of foul play comes to the forefront of the investigation as police learn more about a troubled marriage and Sherilyn's missing pistol.
A pistol being missing is important. We were told by family members that she carried the pistol everywhere. Maybe this was a murder-suicide.
If a murder-suicide had occurred, the Jamisons' bodies would still be somewhere on Panola Mountain. On October 17th, less than 24 hours after their truck was found, law enforcement begins a massive search.
The emergency management in Latimer County got a hold of all the fire departments in this area, EMS, forestry, local people started showing up with horses, four-wheelers.
They didn't know where to go, where to start looking. You know, so they just took teams and went up there.
All of the resources of Latimer County are brought to bear. Helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, tracking dogs, teams of horses and mule, and hundreds of personnel all assist in the search effort. The rough terrain makes everything twice as hard.
It's a triple canopy, a lot of woods, a lot of rocks, almost all of it straight uphill, and very, very tough conditions to try to do a search in.
It was also hazardous and dangerous because a lot of the people didn't know the woods and they could get lost.
Walking up those mountains and trying to keep a straight line and everybody intact is very, very hard to do in that type of terrain.
Tracking dogs are also brought up to Panola Mountain to aid in the search effort.
There were dogs that we brought up to the scene, both cadaver dogs and air scent dogs, to try to locate the Jamison family.
We used some articles from the vehicle to let the dogs take a sniff of it, try to get familiar with their scent.
The dogs start at the truck and fan outward through the surrounding terrain.
They were very interested at the top of the mountain as well as around the truck. They didn't really want to leave that area.
Although acres of woods surround the open area at the top of Panola Mountain, the dogs don't venture off the plateau. They alert on a nearby water tank, signaling investigators to the possible presence of human remains.
The tank was full of water, and the dogs seemed to have hit on it quite a bit. Obviously, we were thinking to ourselves, okay, they might be dead bodies in this tank.
The tank is drained and examined, but nothing is found inside. Search teams scour the mountainside, but find no bodies.
I find it impossible for you to be able to hide your own body. Yes, you may be able to hide one or two that you'd obviously killed, but to hide your own body would be nearly impossible.
That conclusion brings a measure of relief to the Jamisons' friends and family, who have trouble believing Sherilyn capable of murder.
I don't think there was any way, even if Sherilyn was depressed, that she would shoot Bobby. I know they had a lot of arguments and they had fights about things, but she truly loved Bobby and Bobby loved her.
To help spread the word about the Jamisons, missing posters are created and distributed around southeastern Oklahoma.
There was effort made to get information out to the public and to let them know that they were missing.
We took the picture of Madison off of their cell phone that they had taken up on the mountain. We put her age, height, her hair, date of birth. We used the driver's license of Sherilyn and Bobby, and we done the same for them.
So anybody that walked by, you could see, hey, you know, I didn't know them, or, you know, I saw them the other day.
Although their focus shifts away from murder-suicide, investigators continue to uncover strange details about the Jamisons' lives. They discover that Bobby, and especially Sherilyn, had a strong interest in spirituality.
Sherilyn had some beliefs that were not commonly shared with other people, and I think she had a tendency to exaggerate them and go a little bit overboard with them.
In the weeks prior to their disappearance, the Jamisons attended prayer meetings conducted by a local preacher, who was later interviewed by investigators.
He was talking about them seeing spirits, that they came to him and was talking to him about seeing spirits.
The preacher tells investigators that Sherilyn said that angels were coming into their home in the form of children and interacting with her 6-year-old daughter.
I know that Sherilyn had said that Madison was talking to people that had died, and one of them was named Emily. I don't think it was someone dead. I think it was an imaginary being that she, you know, had, you know, to cope with some of the things that were going on in her life. You know, it's very hard for a small child to be somewhere where there's arguments going on.
The preacher also tells police that Bobby Jamison believed that he saw spirits on the roof of their Lakeside Eufaula home. It's a disturbing revelation.
It was 3 or 4 spirits that were giving them trouble and mostly talking about them being on the roof. We had also found out from him that Bobby had asked him, okay, is there a special bullet that I can buy to kill these spirits?
That makes me sad. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what that would be about.
Friends and family are not clear on what Bobby may have been going through to explain such unusual behavior.
It's a mystery to me. I don't know where that came from, you know, and I don't know the minister, I don't know the church, I've never been there before. It just doesn't sound like him to say something like that.
According to police, Sherilyn had also spray-painted odd phrases on signs and buildings in their neighborhood, including the storage container they had sitting on their lakefront property.
Sherilyn had a cat that had passed away, and she believed that it had been poisoned, and that raised a lot of issues within the neighborhood.
The graffiti said something along the lines of witches don't like their cats being killed.
I know she's told the neighbors around here she's a witch, and come on in for some witch's brew, and I think it scared people off, but I think she just didn't want to be bothered by people.
Sherilyn used to tell me, if you have a problem with somebody, make them think you're crazy. The crazier they think you are, the more they'll leave you alone. It's true, it worked. You spray paint some crazy stuff on there and people think you are crazy. I don't think anybody bothered them after that.
For investigators, the clues and odd revelations about the Jamisons' lives are not adding up to a coherent whole.
When you do an investigation, one of the ways that most of us were taught, you actually get rid of each scenario that could have happened. So process of elimination on it. And in this case, we haven't been able to completely eliminate anything.
This has been a very bizarre thing. I mean, there are so many pieces to this puzzle, and every day you find a new piece, something else comes up.
After the Jamisons have been missing for 7 days, a lead finally surfaces that appears to turn the investigation around. Law enforcement learns that the Jamison home is outfitted with surveillance cameras and that recordings were made up to the time of the family's disappearance.
Both cameras were pointed toward the driveway of the residence. We have the footage of their home surveillance that morning of them getting ready and preparing to come up to the mountain.
In the eerie-looking surveillance video recorded on the day they disappeared, the Jamisons are seen packing their truck.
The family was found going in and out of the home multiple times, back and forth to the car in somewhat of a trance-like state.
We found it odd that they had to go back and forth so many times. I would say safely each one of them, without it being an exaggeration, went 20 times back and forth. They never acknowledged each other as they were walking back and forth from the vehicle. Never acknowledged each other. It's like they were the only persons in the world.
Speculating that the Jamisons' behavior may indicate an involvement with drugs, Sheriff Beecham shows the recording to experts.
From their security cameras, trying to get an idea of what type of people they thought they were. It made me and the psychologist feel that they were on some type of drug at that time.
If the Jamisons were involved with drugs, in Latimer County, that usually means one thing.
We automatically assume here in southeastern Oklahoma, if you're on a drug, that it's methamphetamine because we have such a problem with it here.
Coming up, could a violent incident a month before the Jamisons disappeared be the key to solving the case?
Then she put the gun to his head and said, "You need to go. You need to leave right now and don't come back."
The Jamison family has been missing for 14 days. But now, a recovered surveillance video leads investigators to suspect a drug connection in their disappearance.
We felt that there was a possibility that Sherilyn and Bobby had been doing methamphetamines or other drugs by their behaviors on the video surveillance.
It can come in a powder form. It can come in a crystal form. They like to call it the redneck cocaine.
Some sort of drug connection could possibly help explain the bank bag with $32,000 found in the Jamisons' truck.
In this area, you find that much money, automatically you start to think about drugs.
But the Jamisons' friends and family believe that connecting them to illicit drug use is both wrong and unfair.
I don't know anything about having drugs or any of that. People jump to conclusions. They don't know what's happening.
I feel like a lot of the things that could be helpful in this case are almost being used to make them seem like druggies or whatever, and they weren't. They weren't at all. Everyone is speculating as to what were they really doing up there. Well, they were looking at land. It doesn't mean that they were up to no good.
Family members can also explain the seemingly suspicious array of surveillance cameras on the house. Bobby's mother says they had nothing to do with drugs. The cameras were installed for personal reasons, involving her now deceased husband.
Surveillance cameras put on the house for protection. My husband had threatened me several different times. He also threatened my son and Sherilyn. And I had the cameras installed. I'm the one that did that. I also had a security system put on my house because I was afraid. And it's hard to live through life being afraid.
FBI agents conduct a thorough search of the Jamisons' house and property.
There were no traces of methamphetamine in the home or in the vehicle.
As far as I know, the FBI did not find any drugs.
Investigators are unable to make a clear connection between the Jamisons' disappearance and drugs. But delving deeper into their personal lives, police uncover information that could explain some of Sherilyn's apparently erratic behavior.
After meeting with Sherilyn's mental health provider, we learned that she suffered from bipolar disorder and that she had been struggling for many years with the condition.
According to friends and family, Sherilyn didn't always stay on her prescribed medication.
It's a hard thing to accept that you have to take medication to be normal the rest of your life. She would do what a lot of depressed people do when you start feeling good because of the medication. You're like, oh, I'm good now. And you get off the medication and then you're worse off because your brain's trying to catch up.
I mean, she was like two different people. When she was taking her meds and taking them properly, she would be the happiest person on earth.
Sherilyn's condition could explain some of the more unusual writings in her journal, including the hostile letter written to her husband that police found in the Jamisons' truck.
When she would go in the other state of her bipolarism, she would be angry, hateful, belittling herself.
Sherilyn didn't write a word unless she was writing what was going on in her head. And that's why the journal was so disturbed.
Despite Sherilyn's sometimes erratic behavior, investigators believe that her bipolar disorder played no part in the family's disappearance. According to friends and family, her illness and Bobby's chronic pain did create enormous tensions in their marriage. But they looked at moving to Panola Mountain as a second chance at happiness.
They were trying to make a go of it. They were trying to get back together. And I think they thought if they moved up there, they could, just start a new life. My son loved her very, very much, as well as he did his daughter, and she loved them back.
By November 1st, the family has been missing for more than 3 weeks. Investigators are stumped.
Most investigators would love to have the amount of evidence that we have. And the problem is that it leads us in every which direction.
Then, just when they are running out of angles, a stunning new lead surfaces. Police learn that a few months before they disappeared, Bobby and Sherilyn took in a boarder.
There was an individual that was living with him, and this individual was there to help work on the residents.
Because of his chronic back pain, Bobby thought having another set of hands around would ease the burden on both him and Sherilyn. But according to friends, the border began to make Sherilyn uncomfortable when Bobby wasn't around.
Sherilyn and Madison both felt very threatened by this fellow who had been staying with them.
Investigators learn of one incident that was especially disturbing to Sherilyn.
Bobby had left to go somewhere, and the man that was staying here sat down next to her, real close, and put his face right in her face and said, you know, I'm a white supremacist, and you keep talking about all this Indian blood you have. And I think anybody who's not pure white needs to die.
Sherilyn takes Madison away and returns with one of Bobby's guns.
She was scared for her child, and Bobby. And she pointed the gun at the guy and said, get off this property and don't come back.
Sherilyn fires live rounds near the border's feet to drive him away.
She's really torn up about that. She felt really bad about it. I mean, she was crying to me, telling me this and saying, I've never held a gun to anyone before.
Investigators learn that the man has an extensive police record.
Obviously, this person became a great interest to us.
If you threaten someone and then they make you leave at gunpoint, that's a pretty big indicator that you might be wanting to retaliate.
The FBI launches an investigation to identify and track down the former border.
The FBI felt that he quite possibly could have brought them harm.
Coming up, investigators zero in on the Jamisons' border. What does he know about their disappearance?
This isn't a random crime. This is something that was premeditated. Somebody knew they were going to be there that day, and they took advantage of that.
Bobby and Sherilyn Jamison and their daughter Madison have been missing for 3 weeks. But the investigation into their disappearance is finally working with a solid lead. Police learn that a month before they disappeared, a live-in handyman allegedly threatened Sherilyn's life. She forced him to leave their home at gunpoint. His current whereabouts are unknown.
We found out all the information we needed about the individual.
Investigators learn the border's name from a prescription bottle found in the Jamisons' truck.
We put it out to the U.S. Marshals.
U.S. Marshals find the man living in Wilburton, Oklahoma, and detain him.
U.S. Marshals tracked him down, and the FBI did interview him.
In the interview, the former border is able to account for his time during the Jamisons' disappearance. The FBI doesn't consider him to be a suspect. Investigators again find themselves back at square one.
I really don't know where to go from here other than each time that we get a lead, follow up on the lead.
Friends and family believe that despite the crushing challenges in their lives, the Jamisons were planning for a brighter future until something or someone got in their way.
They were trying to love each other the best they could, you know? But knowing all of that now, it really makes me sad because they didn't get that chance to start over fresh.
Over the weeks and months that follow, investigators check out each and every lead that comes their way.
There's a rumor of them being in trouble with, whether it be organized crime or just small-time gangs or crimes. That is all rumor, and we don't know any of that for a fact. But we can't get rid of that, so it's still there.
But the rumors don't lead to a break in the case. The FBI doesn't currently consider anyone to be a suspect in the Jamisons' disappearance.
At this time, we have no suspects. And until evidence comes to life to show differently, there are no suspects.
Sheriff Beecham believes it's probable that the Jamisons were kidnapped or taken by force. He just doesn't have the evidence to prove it.
Because of everything being left in there and the way the vehicle was parked, they got out of that vehicle after they were trying to leave the location because somebody had drove up there. Somebody had drove up there and blocked their path.
It's so rural up there that you wouldn't just cross paths. This isn't a random crime. This is something that was premeditated. Somebody knew they were going to be there that day. and they took advantage of that.
Whether they made them leave by gunpoint, force, or they got in voluntarily, I don't know. And what happened from there, I don't know. But that is my current theory on what had happened.
Both family and investigators are frustrated by the magnitude of the mystery surrounding the Jamisons.
Most of the time people will tell you, and I hate saying it, but you need to find bodies. Whether alive or dead, to usually solve a case like this, you need the bodies.
Right now, we just need everyone's help in finding them and locating them, because not knowing is very hard.
I've used more resources than most people have ever used in the state of Oklahoma to try to find somebody. It's a small department. It's a small county. There's not very many people around here. Everybody talks about it now. Every day I hear, did you find that missing family yet? Did you find them? And no. That's my only answer. You know, it messes with your confidence. There's no doubt, not being able to solve such an important case.
Perhaps due to the lack of new leads, media interest in the Jamisons' disappearance outside of Latimer County has slowed to a trickle.
Even right now, whenever I ask someone if they know about this family, a whole family that went missing, they have no idea what I'm talking about.
In the meantime, Bobby, Sherilyn, and Madison's family remains desperate for answers.
It's hard to put yourself in the family's shoes. I've never had this happen to me, and I couldn't imagine it happening to me. And it must be the toughest thing you could probably go through in a lifetime.
We've already had 7 months go by. The search has gotten kind of cold. I've gone through so many scenarios in my head. If they can help me find my kids, I'll do anything. I want my kids back.
To help the case, if anybody does know any information, they need to give us a ring. We need it. We're begging for it. If you know where they're at, tell us.
You know, I would sell my left limb if somebody would come forward. If somebody would just say something. Anything. Because for as many people that there were out there that didn't like them, there were twice as many people who loved them. And we need closure. They didn't deserve this.
दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदावे मौत दमाल दुनिया दो दिन दी दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमांदे दगा फरेब ते जुल्म कमांदे हाय कुछ नहीं खड़दे नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कुछ नहीं खड़दे नाल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे दुनिया देंदी दुख बतेरे वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े वीरा कोलू वीर नखेड़े आए मावा तू बिछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी आए मावा तू बिछड़े लाल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी सुख दे सजना सारे संगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी नस जांदे जद आवे तंगी हाय कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कोई नहीं गम दा प्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हंसना रोना गम लाचारी हंसना रोना गम लाचारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी आज मेरी कल तेरी बारी हाय कंजरी दी मिसाल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओह कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी बुत वे तुड़ानी मिट्टी दा वीरा बुत तुड़ानी मिट्टी दा वीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा अपना आप संभाल बशीरा हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय मिट्टी मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी ओ दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा मिट्टी दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हाय कर तू कुछ ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए बड़े बड़े सुल्तान भी आए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए ओढ़क जा बिच खाक समाए हरे हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी हरे हो गए ख्वाब ख्याल दुनिया दो दिन दी दुनिया दो दिन दी बंदा वे मौत दा माल दुनिया दो दिन दी